This video contains spoilers for Stronghold 2's military campaign and will follow the narrative of the good path option in the story. Welcome, lords and ladies, to Chapter 3 of the Lore of Stronghold 2, our mini-series dedicated to exploring the stories, events and characters which populated the chaotic civil war between the loyalists of the king and the rebels of Lord Barclay and Pascal Devereux. Having previously visited both Sir William and Sir Steele, this time we turn our attention to Lady Seren, devout Christian warrior turned double agent during the war, a woman who turned to the dark arts of deception in her country's most desperate time. Lady Seren grew up a dedicated and unwavering Christian like many young and noble girls of the time. Her family wanted the best for her and so exploited the benefits of being both wealthy and religious, resulting in a fine education for their daughter. After hours of torturously boring teaching, she craved learning about swords, warfare and adventure. This continued into her later years, but now with the maturity of age, access to her own purse and an everlasting inherent grit, she found more freedom to explore as she aged. While still dutifully attending feasts, markets and marriage proposals, she would often slide away to practice her swordsmanship or archery. She collected many hidden talents and yearned for worldly knowledge and experience, always fascinated about the more worldly visitors of her state, questioning them about their distant travels and unusual opinions. But whilst life was good for a long while, all such things must end, and come a solemn September, her estate was ravaged by some unknown illness. Her parents fell ill, and neither the nuns, monks, or even the apothecary could cure the cruel affliction, and sadly they both passed away. So she was left Lady Seren, the single stout occupier of her estate and castle at a most unfortunate time, for England was on the cusp of becoming embroiled in a civil war, spearheaded by traitors to the crown. While she had hoped to ease into the position, Lady Seren's command of the estate had to evolve fast. Messengers came from afar, informing Lady Seren of Viking raids and distant battles across England. She met with advisors day and night, established scout outposts throughout the land, stockpiled materials and food, smithed weapons, and primed her soldiers for battle. All this preparation came to a head when a young scout arrived. He brought news of Edwin Blackfriar and his troops. They stood mobilised on the border of the county and began moving against the loyalist forces. Most disturbing, considering Edwin was still considered a capable, if childish, loyal lord to the crown. Lady Seren moved against him swiftly, anxious about her first real test of command. But her years of secret strategizing paid off. She caught Edwin by surprise and locked him away in her keep. An exhilarating first step into the chaos of war, she had proved herself worthy of the armour she had long been mocked for wanting. But within a matter of only weeks from this first victory, Lady Seren was to taste the first stings of defeat. She travelled with a small contingent of her knights to survey the nearby defences. Then, a distant boom, crashes and what felt like small earthquakes disturbed the land around them. Lady Seren shouted for her knights to mount and rode with swift urgency back to her castle. It was there, on top of an overlooking hill, that she saw a man who once tried to court her. A sweet but overly idealistic knight named Sir William. But whilst once she entertained the thoughts of him, he now laid siege to her castle. The smoke dispersed and the blood dried as she rallied the remaining men. She led them away from the castle walls as it fell swiftly with her initial absence. She regrouped to the nearest town and struggled to revitalise her people. She was sure William was simply being misled, and decided that if the ever-dwindling loyalist forces were to succeed, she would have to leave the principles of truth and virtue behind, just as her enemies had done. With several conflicts now occupying helpless counties and castles, Lady Seren got to work on undermining this new rebellion, relying on her quill rather than her sword. With words of a Sir Steele battling Edwin in a distant town, and William still in search of the king, Lady Seren wrote to Lord Barclay and Pascal Devereux, the two key figures of the rebellion, hoping that they had not heard of her capture of Edwin. She told them of her disgust of the king and his royal army, the state of weakness England now found itself in, and how Lord Barclay seemed a much better fit for what the country was meant to be, a conquering behemoth over its nearby foes. She promised him knights, towns, and wealth, It was an offer too appealing to refuse for Barclay and Pascal, especially given Sir Steele's recent victories. She raised her banners once more, her soldiers and knights now fully recovered from the siege weeks previously, and in a pledge of allegiance, they met with the rest of the rebel forces. Barclay and Pascal had amassed a great force with one single mission: to kill Sir William and his new upstart, Sir Steele. Lady Seren enacted the penultimate step of her trickery. She convinced Barclay and Pascal that she should broker a peace with William and Steele, as alive they were worth much more to the rebellion. They agreed. And it was then, atop a castle keep, that Lady Seren revealed her plan. Once the siege was deepest in its fury, she would flank her apparent allies. With the loyalist defenders from the castle raining down hell from the front, and her own forces revealing their deceit from the rear, they would squeeze the rebel forces. The sound of swords and screams eventually ceased, leaving a ravaged castle and an abundance of corpses. But the plan had worked, and the day was for those loyal to the crown. The loyalists had dealt a crippling blow to the rebels. Lady Seren continued the rest of the war protecting the king, guarding him from the remaining bands of traitors and vipers. A proven warrior and pivotal player in the eventual loyalist victory in the Civil War. Beginning an honourable and honest defender of the crown, but ending as the crafty double agent. She continued living her life after these days of depravity, with a keen respect both for truth and valour, but also duplicity and deception. And so ends part 1 of our Lore of Stronghold 2 series, covering our 3 main heroes of the piece: Sir William, Sir Steele, and Lady Seren. If you've missed any of the previous 2 chapters, do make sure to head to the description box below to find links to those videos, as well as our videos covering Stronghold 1's characters. And as always, make sure you're subscribed to keep up to date with everything Stronghold.